A warm welcome to Aviation this week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi. Data from the Aviation Safety Network shows that Indonesia has had over 100 civilian airliner accidents with over 1,000 fatalities since 1945, ranking it as one of the most dangerous places to fly in Asia. In the face of the recent crash in that nation, air accident investigation authorities in Nigeria are creating awareness around accident prevention with the aim to build safer skies for the country. Plus, Britain tightens border controls to prevent new strains of COVID-19 from coming into that country. That's a sneak preview for the takeoff flight. Every aviation accident is a global tragedy, and the industry, through accident investigation authorities, is empowered to unravel the probable causes, contributory factors, as well as develop appropriate safety recommendations. The recent Indonesian jet crash once more draws attention to the Asian country's poor safety record after 62 people crashed into the Java Sea minutes after takeoff, marking the country's third major airline crash in just over 6 years. Drawing lessons from this tragedy, here in Lagos, southwest Nigeria, air safety is on the front burner at this occasion as the Accident Investigation Bureau gathers experts to look at prevention of air accidents, considering the role of human factor in the safety chain.
Humans are somehow practically involved in or interface with all the occurrences categories.
For the industry regulator, air safety remains a shared responsibility.
We do not want to get it wrong, and we do not want to have blood on our hands. The primary responsibility of Nigerian Civil Aviation, in conjunction with Accident Investigation Bureau, is public safety. And this is what we must assure through our safety oversight and shared responsibilities with the certified entities and licensed personnel. We must jettison the tag of being a reactive system to that of being proactive and predictive. We must not allow our existing latent condition, including those associated with human errors, to precipitate into incidents and accidents. Implementation of appropriate risk management strategies to mitigate safety risks to acceptable and tolerable levels. And where necessary, application of appropriate enforcement actions where motivational intent to violate statutory and regulatory requirements are established to serve as a deterrent amongst others.
Statistics show that the number of deaths in major air crashes around the globe fell by more than half in 2019. 2019 had 257 fatalities in 8 fatal accidents, compared to 534 deaths in 13 fatal accidents in 2018. While technology has helped drive improvements in the aviation industry's safety record, great strides in safety management systems and insights into human factors have also contributed significantly. But how critical is the impact of human factors in air accidents?
Some examples of human factors that can result in accident include, but not limited to, the following: memory lapses, impaired poor judgment, inattention or distractions, perceptual misjudgment, lack of competence and experience, skill levels inadequate for the task performed, poor risk perception due to poor knowledge and experience, medical conditions, and importantly, poor corporate safety culture. That is very important, corporate safety culture that can lead to bad attitude, negligence, overconfidence, arrogance, and so many other things within an organization.
Bringing solutions to the table is the end goal of this meeting.
If you have a culture in your organization where you do not take into consonance the fatigue risk aspects of the job, you would also see that this will also affect the performance of not just your pilots or your engineers, but you need to look at it as a whole aspect of the organization, right down to the security, right down to your dispatchers, right down to your operations personnel.
Automation may help in one way or the other, but at the same time, individuals' contribution, trainings, working environment, and all other things have to be in right perspective for people to be able to discharge their duty.
One of the things that we have to do, there has to be a robust condition of service engaging, stipulating very clearly the relationship between the organization and their staff.
On the whole, regulatory authorities must enforce the implementation of recommendations from accident investigations to prevent a reoccurrence and improve safety records.
Once more.
Air safety must be improved despite worldwide progress, and building a more resilient system that reduces human error is sacrosanct. That's coming from the Director of Operations at the Accident Investigation Bureau, Nigeria. He was speaking at an accident prevention event in Lagos.
Aircraft accidents are dominated by the failure of human factor, despite of a positive development in the trend of accidents recorded since the beginning of the 21st century. The number of air accidents is still unsatisfactory. Consequently, it is of paramount importance to do everything that will contribute to substantial reduction of the human factor failure in air transportation. Air safety has to be improved despite the substantial progress made in many areas affecting air transportation. Progress was most remarkable in selection and training of personnel, aircraft design and manufacturing, weather monitoring and forecasting, improving mechanical reliability, system monitoring, communication, precision and scope of navigational aids, cockpit instrumentation and passenger cabin, safety equipment, air traffic control, and utilization of other airport facilities. The study of human factors involves applying scientific knowledge about the human body and mind to help understand human capabilities and limitations. Human factors knowledge can be used to reduce the likelihood of errors and build more error-tolerant and more resilient systems. These are important for safe and efficient aviation.
To protect us against the risk of as yet unidentified new strains, we will temporarily close all travel corridors. Following conversations with the devolved administrations, we will act together so that this applies across the whole of the UK.
Britain has tightened its border controls from Monday, January 18, to prevent new strains of COVID-19 coming into the country. The new measures include the suspension of all the travel corridor arrangements that had meant arrivals from some countries did not need to quarantine. All passengers must now have a recent negative coronavirus test and transfer immediately into isolation upon arrival.
It was very straightforward. I mean, you've only got 3 documents: your passport, your test and your passenger locator form, and if you have those to hand, it's straight through.
Everything was quite clear. I came from Ukraine and staff checked my documents, test results and location form in Kiev in Ukraine, and then staff here in the UK checked again location form, test results, and I was informed about 10 days quarantine.
It was quite good because I knew about the new measures. It was quite easy to get the test beforehand. I said the 3-day window might be a bit short, make it 4 because of the weekends, it might get a bit easier, but otherwise it was quite easy.
The isolation period lasts for 10 days unless the passenger tests negative after 5 days. Previously, Britain banned arrivals from South America, Portugal and some other countries over fears about a strain of the virus detected in Brazil.
Yes, there's a travel ban from Brazil and actually I think 14 other South American countries and also Portugal because there is this new variant. We've seen these variants before. There are thousands of them, of course, but some of them which are more easily transmitted are obviously of greater concern. And it's really as a precautionary principle. We're so close now. We've got 3 million of these vaccines in people's arms in the UK. We want to make sure we don't fall at this last hurdle. So it's really a precautionary principle. It's come in and people can't now travel from those locations.
Well, I think that's something the government should have introduced before, having tests before you get into the UK. But I then think that isolation or quarantine is unnecessary because if you're tested negative, you're negative. And I'm sure that people haven't abided by the isolation. So this is a more secure, a more definite way of ensuring that people do abide by the rules. But I think that quarantining, and especially I see that there's some talk about hotels where people go and quarantine. I mean, I think that's pretty grim.
Well, I think that's what we've got to do. I mean, I can't see a difficulty. You just have to make your life fit around the problems we have today.
Britain's government earlier pledged that it would give financial aid to airports before the end of March, after the industry called for urgent support due to the effect the new rules will likely have on travellers' intentions. And in Cuba, a top epidemiologist has said irresponsible partying over year-end, often with relatives from abroad, has fueled a surge in coronavirus infections, with new warnings of a crackdown to prevent the spread of the disease. Authorities in the capital at the same time announced new containment measures, including suspension of interprovincial transport, cultural activities, and the use of public spaces such as the famous Marlican Boulevard during night hours. They also cut flights from the United States, Mexico, Panama, the Bahamas, Haiti and the Dominican Republic from the start of the year in a bid to contain the new surge in cases, and now require inbound travelers to provide a negative test taken within the 72 hours before arrival. Finally, in the US, there are plans to extend travel restrictions barring travel by most people who have recently been in much of Europe and Brazil. Earlier, the head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention signed an order requiring nearly all air travelers to present a negative coronavirus test or proof of recovery from COVID-19 to enter the United States starting on January the 26th. The restrictions Trump lifted have barred nearly all non-US citizens who within the last 14 days have been in Brazil, the United Kingdom, Ireland and the 26 countries of the Schengen area in Europe that allow travel across open borders. Airlines had hoped the new testing requirements would clear the way for the administration to lift the restrictions that reduce travel from some European countries by 95% or more.
Welcome back. Aviation stakeholders take another look at the prospects for airline business in 2020. There's more on Newsflash.
In 2020, the aviation sector found itself at the doors of a devastating financial crisis. Unprecedented travel restrictions for almost 6 months forced aviation operations to grind to a halt as both the tourism sector and business travel felt the full force of a global lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic. Here in Nigeria, experts are again looking at the prospects of the aviation sector in 2021.
The fellow that wears the shoe knows where it pains. all right? You don't have to tell them, spend it here or spend it there. The airline has so many challenges. How about employee wages over the period? Fuel? They're owing agencies. They're owing every sector. So the guy who wears the shoes knows where it pains. And palliative, as small as it is, allow the airlines to disburse as they deem fit. That's what to do. I mean, if you look at the mega palliative, a chunk of it went to the agencies of government. I thought the chunk should go to the airlines, actually, because without the airlines, all other service providers are next. I'm an advocate for stronger airline support. That support is still meager, and I don't think they got fair share.
But when is business expected to look up again?
So aviation, looking at the outlook, it's not very favorable. It might take us another 2-3 years to get to 2019 levels. It might. And if we're expanding, we better expand sensibly and economically, not just, I want to do an airline for the sake of doing an airline. That is not it.
Another issue of concern is of airfare increase. And of course, the good news, that is gone. How much will this do for the carriers?
It's a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments, and it is for the interest of everybody. For us to remove VAT, because it's paid by you, so you have a benefit. Well, it is unfortunate that the dollar today rise to 480, 500. That is number one. It is not something of doubt. When you put Lagos Abuja for $100, today, simple arithmetic, that's 500. Am I correct? Multiplied by $100. Am I correct?
The amount of flying aircrafts in the country is getting lower. So the capacity is small, but the demand is high. So basic economic rule says high demand and supply will increase the price. So as we saw that the passengers have more confidence, so people were bringing the airplanes back. But these airplanes were given, Civil Aviation Authority gave us a window of about 30 to 60 days that if any of these airplanes are due for the regular checks, it must be conducted. So I believe the reason why you are seeing less aircrafts flying in the sky is because that most of these airplanes have either used up the 30 to 60 days the NCA gave us, and they are now going for maintenance. And also,
Deep losses are expected to prevail in the industry this year, while passenger numbers are expected to grow globally to 2.8 billion, but not anywhere near pre-pandemic levels.
Planes on the tarmac at Gatwick Airport. Passengers checking in ahead of a flight. Gatwick, which is Britain's second busiest airport, is also opening a new COVID-19 testing facility, offering passengers discounted tests. Gatwick's testing site is in a long-stay car park and will initially be able to test up to 500 people per day, but this could be ramped up to 2,000 a day and then 4,000 a day given sufficient demand.
What we do hope is by providing these test facilities, we can actually start to stimulate demand with a reduced quarantine.
The pandemic has battered the global aviation industry, leaving Gatwick particularly exposed as airlines such as British Airways and Virgin Atlantic have prioritized flights from Heathrow, Britain's #1 airport to the west of London.
Hopefully this will be a short-term measure, and as the incident levels come down in the UK, as vaccinations improve, then we will see new measures coming in or a reduction in the measures that the government has put in place. While Heathrow has taken the lead with this, there are many airports around the world that don't have those testing facilities. So if you're caught out in one of those countries and you now have these new requirements, then you'll find it quite difficult to get the tests that are needed in order to come back home again. And that's going to be a real challenge for a lot of passengers. But I think over the next few months, then the UK government can put some common international standard in place.
During England's latest lockdown, Gatwick's EasyJet's biggest bays had about 4 flights a day, a startling drop from 600 flights a day this time last year. Some of Gatwick's airlines, such as Norwegian, are fighting for survival. Now to Chile, as the country reopens its main airport to foreign tourists under strict measures after 8 months of closure owing to the coronavirus pandemic. Travelers must present evidence of a recent negative COVID-19 test, health insurance, and they will also have to report their whereabouts and health status for a 2-week watch period. The South American country plans to gradually reopen other airports to reactivate its tourism sector. Chile closed its borders in March to halt new coronavirus cases. Still on airports and partnerships with airlines, in a cavernous cold storage warehouse at Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport, KLM workers are gearing up for a surge next year in COVID-19 vaccine cargoes that will need to be flown around the world at ultra-low temperatures. A major hub for pharmaceutical products, Schiphol has already handled some of the vaccines being used in trials, and KLM's boss is confident its cold chain operations will cope with the influx of cargoes as mass inoculations start in earnest.
So what we expect, the volumes for the vaccines come on top of the regular volumes. However, we do expect that they come gradually. So the first ones will probably come in December, January, and from there on new vaccines will be approved. The additional capacity that is needed for that is something that we're planning for. So we do expect to be able to handle the additional volumes needed for vaccine transportation.
The shot developed by Pfizer and biotech, but it needs to be stored and shipped at minus 70 degrees Celsius, while Moderna's candidate has to be kept at minus 20 degrees Celsius, at least until the drugs have reached their destination, where they can survive in normal fridges for short periods.
The vaccines need to be transported at different ranges. So I think there's a lot of talk about the deep frozen ones, but the majority of the vaccines would actually be transported between 2 and 8 degrees positive. So it depends on the vaccine and how it will be transported.
Wearing thick blue gloves, workers topped up dry ice and other active containers, which also have a battery-powered electrical refrigeration system and an array of sensors to ensure products stay within their target range as low as minus 20 degrees Celsius. Now to Australia, where Qantas will insist in future that international travelers have a COVID-19 vaccination before they fly, describing the move as a necessity.
We are looking at changing our terms and conditions to say for international travellers that we will ask people to have a vaccination before they can get on the aircraft. What do you need that domestically? We'll have to see what happens with COVID-19 in the market, but certainly for international visitors coming out and people leaving the country, we think that's a necessity.
And this is where we call it a day on this edition. Do stay safe. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi.